have you?
Get ready. Hold tight. It's
Hold on to
happening.
your hats, boys.
Libas.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday week.
A little bit old for you, but
We're that deep into Danny Mole. Please don't clip that.
Been truly horrific, haven't we, this season away from home?
I want goals.
Anyone would think that we rehearse this, and I guarantee that we haven't.
How poor do we have to be before it's happened? How much blood from this stone do we have to get?
The Wednesday week! I didn't even play the countdown, did I? It's become one of those nights already. Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday week. I'd also like to extend a welcome to the probable number of Sheffield United fans that are probably watching right now, looking for something to clip so they can mug us off on the interwebs. Welcome. I hope you're having a good time. How's it going? You all right? But first, I'm sorry to disappoint you Blades fans out there. We've got two games to talk about, and the first one is going to be Norwich City. So if you want to go and get a cup of tea, pop back in about 20, 25 minutes, and we'll probably be talking about the derby game that night. Joining me tonight, I've got Stevie, Simon, and John. Lots to talk about, lots to get through, so I'll just crack straight on. Now, the first game that we had midweek on the back of our 6-2 drubbing against Watford was a chance to redeem ourselves somewhat at home at Hillsborough to a Norwich team that's been middle of the table and not really pulling up any trees this season. So it could have gone one way, could have gone the other, because I think somebody could actually say that same sentence about Sheffield Wednesday this season. John, what were your thoughts going into this game? Did it feel all right? Oh, sorry, John. My apologies. Sorry, just a second. Steve is going to be manning the comments tonight, and I want to hear from you guys out there. Any Blades fans that want to get involved, by all means, wait 20 minutes. Let's talk about Norwich first. John,
Can't guarantee I'll put any Blades comments up.
John, going into the Norwich game, we needed to make a bit of a statement, didn't we?
Yeah, we certainly did. It were horrendous against Watford that second half, and obviously coming up, you need a bounce back game. That game happened to be Norwich at home in midweek, and like you say, Norwich are they're usually a perennial top 6 or at least top 10 team in the Championship. So you're in for a decent test, or you believe you're going to be in for a decent test. They've got some good individual players, one of the top scorers in signs in the ranks there. So although we're at home, it looked on paper to be another stern test, particularly after coming unstuck against Watford. So I think I had us down for a draw. I thought any kind of positive result would have been, what we needed after the Watford game. So if it had been a draw, I think it would have still been a positive in terms of checking that, Watford result out of his hair somewhat. I did feel that Danny would get us up for it, because in the past, but that's kind of how we've been after a bad result. He seems to rally the troops. He seems to get a reaction from them. And that's what we got. We got a really good reaction from them.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times it's been noted that once we've had our backside handed to us, that we tend to bounce back, and that one was no different. Simon, if I go to the lineup, got myself a fancy graphic ready. If I go to the lineup, we've got Beadle, Valerie, Bernard, Iorfa, Max Lowe, Johnson, Charles, Bannon, Ingleson, Windass, and the much maligned nowadays Ike Ugbo. Let's talk about the latter there. Were you surprised to see Ugbo keep his shirt, given how well Michael Smith's been playing of late?
No, I think Danny is signed up to we need to keep playing him, and eventually he'll score. And once he does score, then he'll score many more. And I think that's why he's playing him. I think honestly is why he's playing him. When's he going to get match time other than in the matches? So, you've got to keep trying him, keep playing him. We had Alex, didn't we, on from the start the other week, and I think Alex was very much signed up to that once he scores, he'll keep scoring, and we've got to keep him on the pitch and playing, haven't we? Wasn't to be, unfortunately, but I'm sure we'll go into that in a bit.
Yeah, it's been a tough moment for him. Stevie, do you agree about what Simon's point about what Danny's perception is of Ike Ugbo trying to get one in off his ass, just something to get his confidence going, because he's missed some sitters of late, hasn't he? He needs something, doesn't he?
It's a difficult one with Ugbo, isn't it? Because it's one of those. Are we waiting for the floodgates to open, or was January, February of this year, a little bit of a flash in the pan. I think given the outlay, and it's tricky, the outlay that we've sort of invested at 2.5 mil, I think it was. We need to see a return from that, and we need to persevere with it. And he's at risk at the moment of potentially being seen as something of a lame duck. It's not quite clicking for him, and I think when he does eventually get one, and it's that old cliche of him potentially needing one to go in off his backside, and then the floodgates will open to an extent. I don't ever think he's going to be prolific. Ironically, when I looked at the Norwich lineup, I looked to my mate and sort of said, "Well, that's it. He's saving Smith for Sunday." Because we wanted to get Ugbo in, and potentially because I think I'm not Smith's biggest fan by any way, shape, or sort of form, but I definitely thought sort of future going forwards a little bit. I thought yesterday was probably a game for Smith. He didn't transpire to be like that, and I know we're talking about Norwich, but I thought when I saw the team on Tuesday night that was potentially something that we were maybe thinking about going into a big game this weekend. So I wasn't surprised to see Ugbo in the starting 11. No complaints at all.
I tell you what, there was one thing. I'll put the graphic back up, John. There was one thing I wanted to point out there, and it's the complete dropping of Gassama and Masaba in favour of a five at the back. I want to say two in the middle of the park in Charles and Bannon, but then like an Ingleson and Windass kind of forward position with Ugbo in front of him. Ingleson seems to have picked up a different position that we thought he was going to be playing for us. It seems odd seeing him try and spread that ball around like it does. I'm trying to work out what his role is here.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think that the BBC had us down as a 4-1 formation or something, and I think Ingleson has experience of playing on the wing from his previous club. I think it's finding the right position for him, isn't it? I mean, he's flashed quality in games, and then he's gone. He's had games where he's been quite, like missing almost. But I think he wanted to switch things up a little bit and see if he could get more effective use of Ingleson. Supporting Windass, and then obviously we've already spoke about Ugbo's troubles, but Ingleson I think is one of them players that he's got that versatility, so we can if needed we can sort of push him out a little bit further wide. He's also got that long throw as well, hasn't he, which I think is probably something that can't be understated really, because what with the set piece coach coming in as well, there's no doubt they've been looking at things like that as well for a side that's struggling for goals. That we'll take anything we can, won't we, to try and get a bit more juice out of us. So interesting one, but I think he's been he's warranted his place in the last couple of games, Ingleson.
Absolutely. Now let's get into the game, Simon. I must admit my memory of this is quite hazy, but everything that happened over the last 5 days is quite hazy. As some of you know, it's my birthday weekend 2 weeks ago now, and it's been a hell of a fortnight. Like, I am struggling, so I'm gonna have to let you fill me in. So started strong, and let's get straight into the first goal.
Yeah, I mean, the man of the match who actually won it in the end anyway was our Marvin Johnson, and it was a wonderful ball from the left, which literally curled around the two centre backs straight to Windass. There were some calls because it was such a good ball that maybe Windass was offside, but there was no doubt he was definitely onside. And just a really, really cool, nice finish from Josh.
I thought he'd effed it. I thought he took too many touches before he finished it, and I thought, oh, Josh, man.
No, I think it was perfect. I know it wasn't Norwich's first choice keeper, and looking on some of the tweets on X after the game, he got he got lambasted on X by his own fans. Going back, it was a proverbial banana skin, wasn't it, this Norwich game? Because Norwich either draw or score 4 or 5. And after the Watford game, it was like, oh crap, is this a team that we really want to be playing? A team that's full of quality, Signs being one of them, a great little player. But I read that Danny actually didn't do any training between the Watford game and the Norwich game. He literally sat them down on the Sunday and went through all the videos of every goal because he was just so shocked how we capitulated in such a short amount of time. And there was no training at all. It was literally they went through every goal, every mistake, what they needed to do to improve, and that was basically, it was if anything was ever going to be an opposite of the Saturday was the game on Tuesday night. And it was well thought out of that they looked at the danger players and literally Signs again, he's one of these players who has to cut inside. So they were forever, well, you cut inside, fella, and then Charles will just pick the ball off you. And that's what we did through the entire game, really. It was a great masterclass. But yeah, the first goal, superb. Johnson, I thought, was immense until he was.
We've had a couple of comments literally saying the same. Actually, just what a great game he had. In fact, Steve, do you want to bash a few up? Let's see what the people out there are remembering about the Norwich game, because I feel like it might have been in the back of their minds over the last couple of days.
Yeah, obviously I've just put Sharman's comment up. Neymar was exceptional, and I think he was, and I think we'll get to that in a little while. Dunderbird also sort of commenting, can't complain too much. Dominated Norwich, very even in the derby despite their mega money squad. Obviously, we're going forwards a little bit. Good effort from everybody in both. The rest of the season is looking bright. I'd agree with that. I think the one thing that we do need to highlight in terms of the Norwich game, and I'm not for a second taken away from what we've done, because I think we set up really well. There was a game plan there going into it. And I don't think we were fortunate. I think, we needed a reaction. We were going to get it, whatever. They were missing a couple of players, to be fair to them. And I think Dan did the preview, didn't you? With your mate, and he was sort of saying that they're finding it tough at the minute. I think they had a number of players missing. But
I think it was in the realm of about 8 and 9 that they've got out.
However, having said that, you go back to the whole discussion around the parachute payments, the money that they've been outlaying. Their second string should be significantly stronger than our second string, given the budget that we're working on. And we've been in a situation where we've been missing players over the last couple of years, and we've had to sort of double down and try and figure things out for ourselves. It's just one of those sort of situations where you find it, on that Tuesday, on that evening, it sort of fell on our way. The one thing I'd say about Signs, I'd heard the reputation, I'd seen the stats, I'd seen the numbers. I thought he was a very good player last Tuesday. I think he was a bit of a shining light for them in a team that sort of over the course of 90 minutes struggled to keep up with him. I'm not making excuses and saying that they were, they underperformed or anything like that.
What, like his own team didn't keep up with him?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we had an element of that, didn't we, when we had Chris Brunt playing those beautiful through balls that he used to play. We had players around him going, oh, that was really good.
How do we do that? And how do we keep up with that? And that was it, But I think, to be honest with you, whatever sort of team that they'd have put out, I genuinely think that we'd have carried on and we'd have won the game based on the reaction from the Watford game. I wasn't on, obviously, last week, and I don't want to go back. But we were decent first half against Watford. We capitulated, and we've covered that, last week. It wasn't a 6-2 game, and I think it was an ideal opportunity and the ideal sort of opposition for us midweek last week to sort of get a reaction off the back of that heavy defeat.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it was something that was needed to garner a little bit of confidence going into the derby and into yesterday's game. I'm going to get some stats up, John, here. One notable stat that I'm sure we're going to pick up on here. Now we've got 12 to their 5 shots, 5 shots on target to their 3, 5 shots off target to their 1, and 2 to 1 blocked shots. But the interesting one on this there, we've clearly beat them in terms of those measures, in terms of those metrics. But we only had 28.8% of possession. That talk about making the ball do the work, and you know what I mean, and taking your chances. And I assume a lot of that, I'd love to see the first half stats compared to these final stats, because obviously they would be skewed somewhat in terms of possession for the second half, in terms of what Norwich have managed to rack up over 70%. But that's Chisco Muno's possession stats, that, John, isn't it?
It is. He's frozen. I'll speak for him.
Did John freeze there? John, I think you froze there. Just you took a big intake. You took a big intake of breath.
Off camera, he looked like this.
Oh, fantastic!
That'll get clipped by the new Blades fans watching this evening. That's what's going to happen. Sorry, yes. Start again, John.
Let me try again. Yeah, I'd say if you take some of the other stats below the main stat there of the possession, you'd think that that's a game that we just got dominated in. Looking at those possession stats, you look at that and think, well, have we won that game? Norwich 70% possession. I think it's just the way we set up that game, wasn't it? We were setting traps. We were hitting on counter attacks. It was just a very well thought out tactical plan by Danny. Worked tremendously well. And I think it's not the first time and won't be the last time we'll play like that against teams that we know that like to have a lot of the ball, like to have a lot of possession. We've seen it. He's content at times to let the other team have the ball so long as they're not in dangerous positions. They can play it around midfield all they like. And we do have that way of sitting back and then looking for opportunities to get them on the counter attack. And we have got the players to do that. We have, Windass is no slouch, and obviously we've got Gassama and Masaba at any one time or occasionally together. So I think it was just a well thought out plan by Danny. A perfect response to what happened at Watford, and just shows you don't fall in love with possession and old ticky-tacky football and all that, because it doesn't mean out at the end of the day.
Yeah, we scored more goals than them. Stopped. I did a prequel show with a Sheffield United fan last week for his show. He's an American fella, and we got right into it talking about the way that you've got your Miami Dolphins jersey on because they're playing this evening, and we were talking about the way the Americans are absolutely obsessed with metrics and with stats. So, for example, they'll go there's two Tagovailoa, and there he is with 300 passing yards and 600 rushing yards, and this geezer's got 4 touchdowns the third Sunday after Pentecost. Honestly, I don't know what it means, any of it. I know what it means, but I don't really care who won. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who won the game? And because we're trying to move into that as a sport, that's why we're getting useless statistics such as XG. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honestly, XG has got to be the biggest stat that is the best reference to the butterfly effect that people talk about. If a butterfly beats its wings in, 1864, Jordan Rhodes might have scored a fourth against Nottingham Forest in that second half. You know what I mean? Like, it's absolutely incredible. Simon, briefly, can you, before we go to the comments to wrap up Norwich, can you tell us about the second half? It wasn't very entertaining, but I want to talk about the more cerebral side of it. I want you to talk about, did you feel like we were going to see it out? Were we under any real particular danger, or did it just feel like playing the averages out for 45 minutes?
Well, obviously, we're not mentioned Dom's goal, have we? Dom Iorfa's goal. So
get on it. That is all yours.
He's a centre back who's 6'4", 6'5", who to me doesn't score enough goals. Right. for a big lad and for a quick lad, he doesn't score enough goals. But we got a free kick. I can't remember who floated the ball in. Was it Charles?
Charles, I think.
Charles, yeah.
Yes.
And he ghosted him back post, and it's one of those balls at the back post where it's a narrow margin between the keeper and the back post. The keeper didn't make the best of jobs at trying to keep it out, but it's always a difficult one to do. And he goes in there at the back post, gets in front of his man, bang, back of the net, 2-0. And then after that, you could almost see that everybody, including the management, were then thinking about Sunday's game. I think Norwich offered that little, despite what the statistics say in regards to possession. The real statistic, if you're going to follow them, is how many shots on goals, etc. So then you saw some of the changes he started to make were obviously taking players off in mind for the game on Sunday, and that sort of upset our flow a little bit. I think, did we bring Pato on towards the end? I think we brought Pato on, didn't we?
Both Patterson and Otabeo turned up, which they both came on.
Yeah, because Dom got a facial injury, so he came off, and Otabeo came on. And you know what? I thought it was absolutely immense. We sit up in the gods in the grandstand, and you could hear him shouting and commanding the defence. It was absolutely superb for a young lad. I thought he was really, really good, and he's really one for the future. And then Pato came on, and he became that sort of comedy villain that he is. And I absolutely love Pato. He shook them up a bit up front, and we started to look a little bit, he'll get in, won't he? I know Steve doesn't particularly like him, and I know Steve, but I really did enjoy Pato coming on, and he's that shithouse, isn't he? And we all love a shithouse in our team. And we had it with Wallace, didn't we? But Wallace obviously he was a decent footballer as well. Pato is one of these, just love to hate him, probably like Steve does me. I just love him, and he just seems to create a swell of moving forward and gets the crowd going, which is always great, because I think Danny afterwards complained about the atmosphere at Hillsborough, but obviously a cold Tuesday night in Norwich aren't exactly the biggest draws. They brought a bus load.
I know what you mean, but I feel that there's a societal issue here more than actually, one, if the football's shit and we're trying to play out already being 2-0 up in the first half, we're not going to get screaming and shouting. But do people chant anymore? It's been a dying art the last 25 years. I remember back in the day when we first brought that song out, and they gave out lyric cards. There was lyrics to the to the song, wasn't there? I can't remember the tune now, but the one that Derby County stole. And I feel like it's just a dying art now. I just feel like people don't do it much.
We did go through it a few years ago, didn't we? I mean, Gaz Robinson was one, wasn't it, with Tyrone Backinson's song. But we were playing in small stadiums where you could make a lot of noise, when we're in League One, and there did seem to be a resurgence of songs for all the players. But gone are the days. I remember standing on the Kop when a player would come out or go off, and you'd go through a repertoire of the song for every player. I don't know whether that still happens, because we get there that late now. But normally, Simple Minds have started playing when we get.
You're still eating your prawn sandwiches or something, can't you? Like your cucumber sandwiches. I'll tell you what then, Stevie. So we ended up going 2-0 winners against Norwich. There's been a few comments up there, Stevie. If you want to bash through them for me, please tell me what they're saying.
Slappy Gilmore has been on. I'm sick of hearing their fans saying Wendy's parked the bus and frustrated us. No, we didn't park the bus. We were organised and played some decent footy at times. I'd agree with that. Excuse me. The one thing I will say on that is it almost felt like there was a shift in game plan when we got into that second half, and we were going to move from that 4 to the 5, and it was a 5 second half against Norwich. We went in almost as if to say, right, we've got a game coming on Sunday where we may need to surrender a little bit of possession, and we may need to look at how we're going to set up. So I do think that the Norwich possession stats are maybe a little bit skewed because we surrendered possession deliberately. It wasn't that we were outplayed. We just decided that we were going to set up and say, right, let's go and be difficult to break down for a little while. Whether that be, the case, or it's just me, going back sort of 6-7 days, remains to be seen. We've had Sharman on, who says we actually scored from a set piece, lads. Which
up 6, Will Grigg. Yeah, look at that set piece. Go on. The shagging Wendy's.
Yeah. Paul Faruga. Every team needs a Pato. And Matthew Morse followed up with that. Pato's grim when they arrived at the lane yesterday. Now we're moving forwards a little bit. Great response to the Blades welcoming committee. He is the king of shithousing. He absolutely is. And I don't dislike the guy. I just
don't rate him as a footballer.
Listen, we sit there. I sit in the south, and I just want to just sort of spend 30 seconds on this. I sit there in the south, and I listen to people moaning about certain players, and I'm not just talking about Palmer. We're talking, there are players that in 1 minute will do something, whether that be Smith, whether it be Ugbo, whether it be Marv, whether it be Bannon. Why have you done that? What are we doing here? What's going on here? Do you know what we need? We need Patterson on the pitch.
Yeah.
And he's just a very, very enthusiastic bloke.
What was the phrase that Charlie coined right at the start of the season, and it stuck with us the entire time, hasn't it?
He is the poster boy for benchitis, isn't he? So.
Yeah, benchitis. So
I sometimes feel when we bring him on, it's like the equivalent of bringing Steve Bracknell on, isn't it? It's just like he's going to run onto the pitch and he's going to point at this, that, and everyone, and he's going to chase things down and that. But If you're not going to make that much difference.
If you remember back to Norwich at home last season, where we were actually 2-0 down, weren't we? And Danny brought Pato and Smith on. I think that was the game where, was it when Charlie did her Scrappy Doo impersonation? And they changed the game. They absolutely changed the game. And it was, they were in their faces. Pato was in their faces. And I think games like that, and he did very much the same, didn't he, on Tuesday night? It was very much in their faces and just sort of, like Steve said, we sort of did sit back and invited them onto us where they didn't create a lot. And it just gave us a little bit of the back 4-5, a little bit of respite by chucking him up there. So, and Smith as well. So, we could start lumping it up and they'd held it up there. But he's a player. I agree. He's a player you need in your side. I love him to bits. He's brilliant.
He's got something to offer, but I wouldn't go as far as calling him a gifted footballer. But we had a comment there saying, we should have had him on at half time because it's the type of game that Patterson would thrive on. And I kind of agree, but I'm going to get into it later on, but I feel like we're gaslighting ourselves as football fans. But I will talk about that after this next game that we're going to talk about. But in the interim, some people are going to try and sell you some things. Bear with us. And I learned how to count to 3 on my fingers there, so that's good, isn't it? I'm going to make a note of that. 26 minutes. Let's get on it. Right then, here we go. So, welcome back to the Sheffield United fans. This is the bit that you tuned in to watch. Don't forget, get your screen record bit going. Now, I'm not very good at subscribing to this entire intercity rival nonsense because I feel like let's try and, for the first couple of minutes, let's try and talk about the team we're up against and where we are in the league and where they are in the league. You know what I mean? So for example, John, right, what we've got here, we've got a team that have done very well. You know what I mean? They've got a well-assembled squad. There is a definite gulf in quality in terms of the players that they've got. I could go into parachute payments and talk about it doesn't just fund new players, it funds infrastructure, it funds a desire for the better players to come to the club and things like that. Because if we look at our club, we've not produced any decent players in a number of years. You know what I mean? It's definitely something that we need to look at, but it's definitely something that will help when you've got the financial gains that come with playing Premier League football. So if I talk to you about that, John, the kind of sterile version of how we were going to play from a football perspective. Not really a question in there, is there? How did you feel about it? Is I guess what I was saying. Obviously, there's some nerves to it because of the local derby. Yeah. But let's try and put a football spin on it, shall we?
Yeah, I understand the metrics there. Obviously, they've comfortably come down out of the Premier League as being one of the worst sides ever to play in it. Let's make no bones about it. They were
101 goals conceded, record breakers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clip that.
Embarrassing in Premier League, weren't they? But they've come down with a suitcase full of money, haven't they? And one thing it enables them to do is to either hold on to some of the players that they wouldn't normally be too good for this level, or if they sell them and they can replace them and take the pick of the Championship players or Premier League players on loan. So we know there's a gulf there in terms of finances, the kind of players they can attract, just the kind of players that we can attract. But the one thing that you hang your hat on is that it's a derby, and when derby day comes round, that it can be a bit of a leveler because of the old adage of form goes out the window and all that kind of jazz. So I'm just thinking that one-off game, not got a great record there, but I still had some positivity about because of Danny Rule and how he talked about the game and how his focus was on the game and how he might set us up. So I was still. I'll be honest. I didn't think we could win the game, but I thought we might be able to get maybe a draw. So I was semi-confident leading to it.
That was very measured, John. Thank you very much. I enjoyed that. By the way, Steve, congratulations on the Hello from the Other Side show that you did, the prequel for it. I thought yourself and Nick spoke really well. And I've said before that my brother is my biggest critic. Right? He'll ring me up and go, "Damn, that was shit. Damn, that was all right. Damn, that was shit." And my brother rang me up today to tell me how good it was, the prequel show. So, high praise indeed, Stevie, to be fair, because he's not back at coming forward, is our kid. So go on then, Simon. I'll let you talk about the unquantifiable, shall we say? I mean, you referenced just off air earlier on about the Blades fans and the Sheffield Wednesday fans dynamic in your office and things like that. So in terms of John spoke really well there about the actual football inside of it. What about the bullshit that comes with it?
Oh God, comes with it before, during, and after. I think there's. I know Ash alluded the other week that he wasn't bothered, and he certainly. I think he was doing his ironing during the game. I don't know whether that's a man who's not bothered or a man who just can't bear to watch it, sort of thing.
I think it's the latter.
Same. I've seen too many derbies now to sort of talk about, but I think there's become a huge gulf now, isn't there, between the two clubs? You've already alluded to it in regards to the fact that they've had numerous trips to the Premier League. Sorry.
Premiership Jackson.
Yeah, that's it. Here we go. Clip that, United fans.
Clip that.
Because the last time we were in it, it was the Premiership.
And it's not old enough to drink.
Exactly. So you can see it. You can see from their facilities. You can see from the quality of players. You've already alluded to it, Dan. Even though when they went down with that fantastic record that they got, the players have left, and there has been a wholesale changes. But the players they've attracted, you only have to look at the players, and I think somewhere's put along the line of their squad cost compared to ours. And gone are the days that Chris Wilder can moan about our players being on 40 grand a week and stuff like that.
Because they're on 60.
Exactly, and we're on this huge rebuilding task where we've got one arm tied behind our back. And this isn't excuses. This is reality. This is where we are.
I mean, we got caught cheating, trying to pay. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're still rebuilding from that. Let's not pass around the point.
Hugely, and now we've got a chairman who, whether he be a millionaire or not millionaire, will not part with the money. So we are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Putting it aside, what the team we played on Sunday was the equivalent to Leeds, was the equivalent to Burnley, in a way the equivalent to Luton, in a way almost equivalent to Norwich in regards to the time spent and the investment in the squad and facilities. So that is the black and white side of it. But then you go into the fact of the emotional side, and the fact is that the conversations I had running up to Sunday was on both sides that I think we were both bricking ourselves, although the United side were quietly confident. I think,
and rightly so.
Rightly so. Absolutely. Whereas we were hoping, well, I certainly was, that we wouldn't have a Watford result again. It's those sort of things. And they were, despite them calling it the Bouncing Day Massacre, they still can't get over the fact of the Boxing Day Massacre and the defeat back in 79, wasn't it? But, so they were desperate to win by more. Danny is a better manager than that. He would have looked at how they played. He'd have looked at taking on from what we achieved against Norwich. So nervous, and you could see that in the face of the fans watching it on TV.
Yeah, when they were getting stuff thrown at them when they were walking into the ground, you could see some definite nerves there. But I think I want to get back to that at the end after the football. Stevie, let's get into some of the comments on what the mans were thinking, because I feel that we all have our personal own ways of approaching a local derby, and I feel like I kind of want to get a cross section of it.
Yeah, so Anthony L has been on SUFC 69 mil lineup versus SWFC 25 mil, plus their players hit the floor quicker than a cheap pair of knickers with the broke elastic. I have a very strong opinion about that before the goal, and I'm sure when we get to the goal we'll come to that. But I'm not going to disagree with that comment around them throwing themselves on the floor. Craig Hayward, no embarrassment yesterday. We just lacked quality in the final third. I also think Danny dropped one, not starting Smith to battle up there with big mutts.
I agree. I don't know how Ike Ugbo's earned a start there, I must admit.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it earlier, and I've got opinions, but and then finally, Neon Brown, Good one, this one. They're loving their banter, but if we win the return fixture, I'm praying in capital letters that Danny does the interview eating a Greggs sausage roll.
Mate.
I think he's pulling from the socials, and he's also leaning into the Dan Fudge birthday.
We know the commercial manager at Wednesday now, don't we? If he can just pull off a one-match sponsor for that day, but by Greggs, like we had Asda in '91. If we could be sponsored by Greggs on that day, it would be a masterstroke.
I tell you what, do you remember when? Who was it? Let me have a look. Do you remember when Alex Morgan, the USA striker in the women's national game, did a tea drinking celebration, right?
Yeah.
And that rattled me, but not in the way that they thought it was going to rattle me. And that's the same as Chris Wilder singing the sausage roll thing. Like I'm annoyed that the Americans think that pretending to drink tea is going to get up our ass. Like, I'm annoyed because it's shit banter. It's banter from a 10-year-old. And Chris Wilder singing sausage, grown-ups old enough to vote singing sausage roll. That's winding me up because you're from the same city as me, lads. We're funnier than that. Come on, be better. And then someone's actually made a sausage roll meme of Danny's face in a sausage roll. God almighty, this is... Oh, do you know what this is? This is those people that are looking now at their fantasy football league team names and going, oh, that's a shit joke, isn't it? Because how many sausage rolls did we get in our fantasy league? Like, you know what I mean? It's just crap banter, lads. It was
Lewis has got it here, and I couldn't agree more. The sausage roll thing is good for a tweet, and every now and again, but 31,000 people is pure cringe. I couldn't agree more.
It's got mauled by the Tigers vibes, I'm afraid.
Unfortunately, they've obviously have not got a Gaz Robinson, have they? Because we normally rely on Gaz to.
Do you know what? If they'd have had like the other video, right? You know when he's in that boozer at the end of the evening, right? And he's in. I know I've skipped over the game a bit, but he's in that boozer and they're singing that other song. Fair play, lads, you've had a win. Have a sing song, but sausage roll. We're funnier than that. Come on. And I hope you understand what I'm saying. You are now Alex Morgan getting mauled by the Tigers right now, lads. Stop it. Clip that. What did Lolo do Wednesday right there? Wilder's too old to be on the bag. Moving on. Let's get to the game.
Disclaimer. Should have read that before I put it up.
Yeah. Chris Wilder may or may not love the packet. We don't know. but given the evidence, probably does. Let's get into the lineup. So here we go. So we've got Beal, Valerie, Bernard, Iorfa, Lowe, Johnson, Charles, Bannon, Ingleson, Windass, and Ugbo. Ugbo getting a start. Bit annoyed about it. Should have started with Smith. I assume that was probably you, John, thinking the same thing as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. But one of the biggest head scratches we ruled so far, to be honest, because I thought that, given Smith's form lately and the kind of game that we anticipated it being, and given Smith's qualities and Ugbo's lack of form, I mean, so many reasons to play Smith in this game for me. But no, he stuck with Ugbo. I mean, Ugbo's trying everything, isn't it, to even cut his hair, didn't they, for this game? So I mean, but
yeah, like Samson.
Nothing's working for him, is it? But yeah, I was very surprised not to see Smith start this game. I thought it was. I mean, you saw when he come on, I thought he made a difference. So I really was shocked that Smith wasn't starting in this one.
It's an interesting one, isn't it, Simon? So Ugbo getting the nod. Pretty much the same starting lineup against Norwich, wasn't it? Which I can understand the thought process behind. I think I'd put a question mark over whether Ugbo earned that shirt, because I think Smith would have absolutely adored that game. I think he'd have loved it. And I think that I think Holly described. She sent me a message saying, "Is it Harry Sutar? His name is it pronouncing that right? Harry Sutar is 3 kids in a trench coat trying to get into the cinemas for an 18 movie." And I kind of went, yeah, he is. Yeah. Fair play, H. Yeah, good shout.
He reminds
he's like the grim. He's like the Grim Reaper in Scrooge when Bill Murray gets to the end and he's in the elevator and he opens up just that much bigger than everybody else.
Yeah, that's it.
I think Ugbo had oh God, he did miss a handful of chances against Norwich on Tuesday. One, I know we shouldn't go back to the Norwich game, but one, he was just like, he actually did a better job at putting the ball out than a defender did. But he got chances, and I think that's probably why Danny's tried him. And then when we brought Smith on, it was too late, really. And like you say, I thought he looked like the three minions in a coat when they're trying to get in and pretend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think he's just Gary Barlow's son, isn't he? I think that's the goal established.
Oh man. Why anyway?
What a day!
Sorry, what a day! Yeah, yeah. It was a difficult one, I think. We're not creating chances up front with whoever we play at the moment, are we? And this was always going to be an issue playing whoever at the moment. And actually, I think all the better chances in the first half fell for Josh Windass. And
he put his shoes on the right feet, Josh Windass.
And you alluded to the Norwich game where you thought he did too many touches for his goal. He needed to take a couple more touches with a couple of chances he had in the game yesterday. Yeah. That volley where you just thought, Josh, you had more time than that. You had more time than that.
Yeah, he definitely had an opportunity.
Why did you just snap at it?
Stevie, go on, Simon, carry on.
Yeah, so it was really tentative at the start, and alluding to the knickers with no elastic, the referee really fell for the falling down.
It did, right? But I think that's their Premier League quality shining through, because if you watch Real Madrid, right, they make a meal of every single challenge, every touch, every challenge, and the referees get suckered in by it 100% of the time. Good teams are good at that.
If that's what Premier League football is, then I don't want any of it, to be honest.
I agree. That's why I can't watch Real Madrid. I can't watch them.
And also, just going back again to the Norwich game, sorry. The referee, I thought in the Norwich game was superb, and Norwich were the same. They fell over a lot, and he just let play carry on. And
I agree with you on that one, Simon. I didn't think the referee let the game flow. I thought it was stop, start. It was like watching a game of NFL.
And maybe that did us a favour as well, in a way, because it meant that neither team could get into their stride. So United couldn't get in their stride either. So maybe it did us in the long run, thinking it outside the box. Maybe it did us a favour, but it was a shit watch. So, it
really was. It really was. There was a lot of positives to take from the first half, and I tell you what, Stevie, you tell us about the first half and tell us what the mans are saying. Clip that.
Couple of comments. We've got Scotch24. What Rule said in the interview was spot on. One team came to play football, and it wasn't that lot. You'd take that with a pinch of salt, I suppose, or whether or not you'd agree with that is entirely down to you. I'm not saying I do or I don't.
Second tier podcast was saying that we fell for Chris Wilder's, their game plan. That's what they set out to do. The kind of rope-a-dope, just let us get a bit above ourselves first half. They got one early in the second, and then dived all over the place. I hate saying it because it seems really easy to say it, doesn't it? It seems really easy to go, well, we were diving about all up bloody place, but they were, and that one where there was that where Bernard got megnutsed on the corner, and then he just took a dive. That for me was the poster boy of what they were trying to achieve the entire time. Every nudge, every tackle, they just hit the floor. We got frustrated, and we couldn't break them down. And then Dominic Iorfa and Josh Windass put their shoes on the wrong feet.
I can't agree that it was a rope-a-dope or that they absorbed any pressure or anything like that. We were the better side first half. I'll say that now. And if there are United fans that want to come and clip this or get after me and have a go, there wasn't a great deal between the two sides first half. If you look back, you looked at it at the time. I walked out there at half-time, walked onto the concourse at half-time and thought to myself, do you know what? We've done all right here. We've set ourselves up. We've acquitted ourselves well. It's been a game where there hasn't been many chances. And I'd say over 90 minutes, you can't say that they've suckered us into or lulled us into a false sense of security.
I've got a useful infographic here for you, Stevie, so I do have the stats ready. Now,
get it up.
We had apparently 8 shots to their 10. We had, we had 10 shots to their 8. They had 1 shot on target and we had none, which is straight up embarrassing, if I'm honest. 2 shots off, 5 off, and 5 block shots. So, can
I just say something there, Dan, as well? I'm so sorry to interrupt. Keep it up. put the graphic back up. So you've got all of those metrics that are negligible, and then you've got the Wednesday 41% versus United 58. We're a team at the moment that sets up to surrender possession, play on the counter. We're going to allow teams to play, to have a little bit more of the ball, and we're going to react to the way that they're playing. In terms of touches in the box, we actually have more touches in the penalty area than they did. We have more corners than they did. You can look at the extension of the metrics that we're looking at there. There's not a lot in it at all, other than the possession where they've had a little bit more of the ball.
Let's be honest, right? It was just a 1-0 win, and it was going to be a tight, cagey affair, because what happens is no team wants to lose that fixture, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens. I've got no. Correct. Personally, I've got no real issue coming away from a team that were fighting to get promoted out of this league, that have come down with parachute payments. They got a few more quid. I've got no real axe to kind of go, yeah, we gave it a good go, and I felt like first half there was plenty to build on. If
an alien came down and landed and watched that game and knew nothing about where Wednesday were and where United were, all the history behind it, they would have watched that game and gone, "Oh, it's a mid-table championship game."
It's a couple of teams kicking the crap out of each other.
It's not even necessary. It's not even necessary. Sorry, Simon. It's not even necessarily mid-table. It's two comparable teams.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's two teams that are comparable, and I've got no issue with the goal for anything like that. At the end of the day, the one metric that changes, and this is where the United fans will turn around and go, "Yeah, but fucking hell, look at us, blah blah blah." They had one shot or one opportunity that they took. And the only opportunity on goal that hit the target went in, and they scored it. But other than that, there was nothing to separate the sides yesterday. No. So they can give it the big one. They can give it the big one all they want. But at the end of the day, we were on par with them yesterday. This is a team that are flying in the Championship, having come out of the Premier League with a Premier League centre-half in Suter, with Hamer, who was a very good player, who played in the Premier League and was their Player of the Year. They've got, they've got players left, right, and centre that played Premier League football. We're talking about doing the bits that we've done, getting Championship journeymen, getting people that played with us in League One. 15, 20 minutes ago, we were talking about, with due respect, Callum Patterson, who was a first-team player in League One for us and has played in the Premier League and was a very good player at Championship level. And I'm not having a go, and I don't want to feel like I'm getting after Callum Patterson, but we're talking about levels. Where the spine of our squad isn't a Premier League-based spine, whereas their players are. Suter will leave United next year and have aspirations of playing in the Premier League. And I think, I said it last night to absolute tumbleweeds in our group chat, he was the difference yesterday. Suter was the difference. He wasn't Harmer. It wasn't anybody else. The fact of the matter is, whether it be Ugbo or Smith, when the ball went up top, we couldn't get round that big lump at centre half. That's what.
3 millions in a jacket.
Yeah.
We should have. That should have been the name of the show tonight.
Yeah, do you know what? The graphic on that would have been great and all. Like,
it would.
The thumbnail would have been amazing.
One on top of the other.
Yeah. It would have been quite funny. Now, I need to kind of broach something a little bit. Do you feel like we're gaslighting ourselves? And I know this is a really odd question. If you don't mind chucking some comments up, Stevie, by the way, while I talk about this.
Yeah, keep going.
There's a point where I think, as Sheffield Wednesday fans, because we've had so much trash over the last 25 years, we've had players come in for 4 games, players come in for 8 and 6, and we go, yeah, he's going to be great, he's going to be min, this guy's going to be brilliant. We knew Ike Ugbo wasn't a world-class striker, and we knew that the circumstances were different when we were fighting to stay in the league, and he was chasing the balls a lot more, and he was playing a different type of game. And then now he's got that contract, the pressure's off, and there's more of a cerebral problem there. But the fact that we make, cult hero status out of players like Ati Newhugh and even Sammy Hutchinson to an extent, you know what I mean? They were, if you were talking high-end Championship players being a 10, they were only 6 or 7 at best. And what we're kind of doing, we're kind of telling ourselves that these average players are better than what they are. And I got caught up in it myself in the summer, thinking, Christ, we're going to be bloody brilliant this year. We're going to be great. But all we're going to be is better than last season, because there's now 4, 5, 6 teams worse than us in this league. And that's pretty much it. We've got the good basis of something, but we are not a good team. We're not a good team. We've got a great coach and we've got a great few players, a great handful of players. But, Marvin Johnson, Barry Bannon naming two. But I feel like we need to build and we need to get better, because I am getting constantly frustrated at players like Masaba and Gassama getting lauded about how good they are some weeks. But they are underperforming quite significantly. I can't for the life of me understand what they see around them to not give that ball up to the striker. I don't understand what they think their job is, and I don't understand what they've been told, because it's pissing me off now. Because that chance that Masaba had, he should have passed it. He should have passed it on the edge of the six, like he did last season to Ike Ugbo. Ironically, because that was could have been a carbon copy of that goal that he scored against Rotherham, for example, where he takes a step back and sweeps it in. We're making heroes out of average players, and I think we're gaslighting ourselves, and we're getting benchitis. I'm seeing conversations online about James Beadles, he's no better than Pierce Charles. Get Pierce Charles in. No, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. What is wrong with your brain? That is classic benchitis. This geezer's play badly, so the other bloke who's on the bench can clearly play better than him. Grow up. You're old enough to vote or buy a house and sire a child. What's the matter with you? We know he's a better player, and he's been brought up with better players. I will argue that Pierce Charles is better with his feet. James Beadle's a foot bigger than Pierce Charles. Let's have him in, shall we? Because if there's been a corner, who's going to win? Harry Souttar or Pierce bloody Charles? Come on, man. Come on. We've lost against a local derby, right? We've lost against a local rival. Things are better. We're all right. We're all right. We're going to be fine. We're going to finish mid-table. That's what we're going to do. Let's calm down. Let's not lose our mind. Clip that, clip that, clip that, clip that, clip that. You know what I mean? It sounds harsh.
I totally agree with you, and I'll go back to us. And I think, like you've just said, whether you want to call it gaslighting, whether you want to call it sort of over expectations, whatever you want it to be, delusions, whatever it is. At the end of the day, I'm big enough, old enough, airy enough, and man enough to admit that we got to the end of last season and we'd had the Miracle of Hillsborough, TM, that you don't like. We've had Getting Up. We've had League One. We've had the whole bullshit Chisco period, and then we've had Danny coming in and taking us on this ride where we've been top six from October onwards. We were top six last year. You get to the end of the season and then you carry on that momentum, and there's little bits. There are a couple of Easter eggs here and there. Chris Powell coming in, what's that all about? How have we managed to secure this guy? The fact that our backroom staff is made up of psychologists and coaches and people that have been involved in the system at Manchester United or Arsenal, or we've managed to get a Scandinavian coach in that we pay compensation for. All of a sudden, it felt like we were building something and we were on the verge of something special, and we were pulling in. And I'll say it, Jamal Lowe in July was a great signing, and I'm not saying he isn't a good signing now. Max Lowe coming in from the Premier League. When was the last time we had somebody who left the Premier League team to come to us? It was a good signing. And, we've recruited Beadle back in from Brighton, and we've got all of these players that are going to come. We've paid £2.5 million for Ugbo, and we're doing it under the watch of a regime that is headed up by a person who I maintain will be a Champions League managing coach in the next 7-8 years. Danny Rule will manage in the Champions League. He will. That will happen because he is
and he'll have better players around him. He'll do really well.
And he'll have better players. So that goes back to that other point, doesn't it? Where everybody's going on about Wilder versus Rule and this, that, and the other. Chris Wilder couldn't do what Danny Rule is doing with our players and our setup. No, and that's not meant with and their setup would be much better with Danny Rule in. And I feel like I'm kind of treading that sort of line at the moment when I say that. But at the end of the day, we went into pre-season thinking that we were going to be better than we were, and we even Rule himself said, if we can finish 10th, that's our target, and that'd be great. But it was us, I'll say it, I'll put my hands up, 6th, push for playoffs, 6 to 8. Let's push for playoffs. It's not, with hindsight, it wasn't a realistic proposition, was it?
We got carried away with the build-up, didn't we? The fact that we had a pre-season of which none of us have ever known, and we got just carried away with that. I think back to how we're playing, and I think we are a little better than the 6 below us. I do think I'd still think that Danny is tinkering. He seems to tinker every game, and I still don't think after all this time he hasn't found his start. He hasn't found his starting 11. And in regards to the Gassama and Masaba, there's got to be some sort of key to unlock those two, because they were, well, Masaba particularly was one of the best players last season. So what's happened? What's created this? Is it because we've got Josh now, whereas Josh was injured for a lot of the time, so Masaba had to step up? Is it the fact that, you've got Josh Windass vying for a similar sort of position on the pitch? Bannon, for me, Bannon's having one of the best seasons he's had in a long, long time.
Yes. Because he puts the players around him, and he lets him play his game.
Absolutely.
I feel he was one of the better players on the pitch on Sunday as well.
I thought it was, and you mentioned.
I do think taking on board all the.
Go on, John. Carry on, son.
He stopped talking. He's not even frozen.
I will say off the back of the comments that you've. Off the back of the comments, I got a bit of freezing on my end there, but yeah, just on the back of the comments that you were saying there, I do think there's an element at the moment that the coaching is kind of propping the side up a little bit.
Yeah,
and I think that's where we'll see, like with the games that we're the games where we're getting beat quite heavily, the games when we don't get a shot on target. There's been multiple occasions in this season where we've not even had a shot on target in games. And I think, there's obviously the miracles of what Danny performed last season. And to ask him to do it again, he needs the players to step up a little bit more. As much as they're propping the side up, the players have got to stand up and they've got to progress. And you example Masaba and Gassaba there. They're a prime example. We thought under Danny Rule full season, okay, we're not even halfway in yet as such, but we expected more from them, and we're not quite seeing it yet. So maybe this international break is another opportunity to really get into them again and try and, hammer home some more methods and stuff. But
show them how to get one in the mixing bowl would be bloody nice,
up,
John, to be fair. So, listen, I don't really have much to add about the Sheffield United game, apart from the fact that it was Sheffield United. We lost to a better team. It's as simple as that. It was a tight affair, and they had a big 8-dimple Lego block playing at the back.
Did anyone think that when the Princess Bride pulled down Michael Smith that it was a penalty?
No, I didn't. I that one there, in terms of that Michael Smith penalty attack, Smith started it, and then as he got pushed back, he went down like a ragdoll to try and blag a penalty. We know what he was doing. Come on, man. I could watch that all day. He's tried to give him a bit of needle. He's had it back and he's gone, oh, bloody hell, ref, look at this. We all know that's what's happened. Come on now. But listen, we did. We lost 1-0 to a local rival. Frustrating, don't get me wrong. And the fact that the way that Chris Wilder carried himself at the end of the game like he'd won the Champions League. You beat a mid-table team with parachute payments, bro. Pick a day and have it off. But I've got nothing more to add to that actual football game, apart from the nonsense that's taken place during this game. And it's been bugging me as time's gone on about how to word this over the last day. And I really want to talk about it. And I'm not specifically talking about either set of fans. I'm talking about both sets of fans. What we have is two teams in the same city, and there is an element of it's going to be a rivalry. Now, what we tend to forget, for some reason, when this game comes around, we tend to forget that that's our brothers, cousins, uncles, mates at school, workmates, people like that. These are people we know. But for some reason, when this fixture comes about, we go, oh, well, there's got to be a right load of trouble. There has to be. I hate him. You know what I mean? And you think, oh, grow up. You're old enough to vote, for God's sake. You know what I mean? You're old enough to drink. Act like it. And I feel like when you see these messages written on mobile phones and you see the spitting and then the alleged liquids coming over from the top stand and stuff like that, in my head, I believe that what that is two groups of people trying to think this is how I should react because of this rivalry. I don't think they want to do it. I think they go, oh yeah, we hate these, don't we? Yeah, I'm going to spit on them. Yeah, spit on them. That's what we're going to bloody do. And that's what it is. And then, I popped a tweet out yesterday saying, I'll see you tomorrow at work, John. Yeah, all right, John. Smash, crash, bang, wallop. And you can see that's what it is. It's just pure stupidity of people trying to live up to an expectation. Does anybody disagree with that, or do you genuinely feel like there's a hatred there between the two sets of clubs? I get you get fucking idiots, don't get me wrong, but I'm trying to speak about it on the whole.
I grew up, literally, me and my sister grew up in Sharrow. We've got season tickets. It's well documented. I grew up less than 400 metres away from the Sheffield United ground. My first exposure to live football was going along with my mates and having a look at what Bramall Lane was all about. Some of my best friends in, those pivotal and key moments in my life are Unitedites, and I bear them no ill will. And I was really heartened. There was a tweet that somebody, or a picture that somebody shared on social media of a couple. I think she was the Wednesdayite and he was the Unitedite, and they've been together for 69 years. And he was 84, and do you know what I mean? And that's what it was all about. And for me personally, there's no reason for this rivalry. There's no history. There's no segregation in Sheffield. There's no divide.
And then all that performative shit of holding the Wednesday fans back to march them in and all. What the fuck? What are we doing? You look at the Liverpool derby. They sit next to each other. Manchester,
the thing is, I get
shit about City in 20 years, and then all of a sudden now they've got an issue with it, and it's not like our one. It's ridiculous. Well,
right? we had Nick on last week for the preview show that you talked about earlier on, and he made a really good point. I asked him the question, where does it sit in terms of rivalry? And he said in England, in Great Britain, it sits probably just underneath the Glasgow derby. Rangers Celtic. He says Rangers Celtic is absolutely mental, and the reason behind that is because you've got the religious connotations, you've got all of that stuff that goes on there. We don't have any of that. But what we do have is a rivalry that is visited every so often. It's not cliche. It's not branded. It's not marketed. What we have and what sets us apart is that we are in a city as big as we are, and we've spent so much time apart from each other that it makes it a destination football game. And yesterday, for all it was, I went and I was shitting it. I was absolutely scared to death because I genuinely, in the cold light of day, I can say this now after putting out ridiculous score predictions and everything else, I was absolutely shitting myself thinking, I'm going to go to Bramall Lane tomorrow. There's going to be a hell of a load of aggro trying to get into the place, but we're going to lose 6-7-0 because they're going to hand our arses like Ipswich have and like Watford did and everything else. And then I've got to sit in that ground for the period of time that I have and just take it all in, and I've got to come out, and then I've got to get home, and it's a Sunday and everything else. Bottom line, we did ourselves, I won't say we did ourselves proud, but we didn't do ourselves any shame yesterday. But in terms of the rivalry, this whole nonsense about hatred and everything else, no, it doesn't exist. It shouldn't exist. We all live in the same city, and I get that happens elsewhere, but some of my best mates are United, and some of our best mates are United.
All this
and vice versa
circulates it every time round.
It's almost like that it's manufactured now, isn't it? I mean, it's our history is interwoven. One wouldn't exist without the other. If you look at how Sheffield football started and the fact of Bramall Lane, the oldest ground in relation to professional football ground, it's where we as a club started. It's where United as a club started. And then we were slowly pulled apart by things beyond our control, railways, where's a bit of ground in Sheffield where we can do, where we ended up in Hillsborough and so on and so forth. And then from that, this the histrionics of it all has just been built up and built up and built up and built up. And no more so than we've been apart for 5.5 years. And Sky Sports and there'll be people out there who were from the 80s, the hooligan element from both sides will be speaking to their grandsons and going, well, we hate them, don't we? I'll not eat bacon. I'll not eat this. And it's this. But in between that, the grown-ups of us have actually, like you say, we'll go out for, we've got mates. I went for a walk at lunchtime with our drawing office manager. He's a massive, massive Sheffield United fan. And we talked about the game. There was no, I'm not going to say to it, I'll go out for a drink with him tomorrow. He's one of my best mates through work. It's so manufactured and it's got worse and worse over the years because people keep telling us we should hate each other.
I think, and I'm gonna, and this is the only time I'm probably gonna say something to this effect, but I feel Chris Wilder perpetuates it the most out of the people that are connected to the clubs nowadays. He's the one that perpetuates it the most. And, you know, the way he carried himself off at the full-time whistle, look, you've just beat your local rivals, celebrate, I get it. But Christ almighty, bro, you've just beat a mid-table team.
Yeah.
But me personally, John, wouldn't you just go, yep, of course we won that, and then show a bit of dignity and trot off and then go mental in the changing room when nobody can see you, right?
Yeah. Just feeding off your comments there. I often find that this Wednesday v United thing's like two bald blokes arguing over a toothless comb, innit? I mean, come on. None of us have done much overtime anyway, have we? I've just won out forever. They've not won anything significant in living memory. We're hanging on to League Cup from 91. It's like, who gets the most fans? Who takes the most fans away? Who's better, banning off? Like, we've had all these petty arguments, haven't we, over the years? But, and when they say hatred, I have a genuine dislike for them, but I'm never going to be nasty to somebody, you know? I never want to hit
they wear a different colour T-shirt to you on a Saturday.
Do you know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
I feel it all churning in your stomach when you're watching.
I don't like you because you're red.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I love the way I've just said that. Like Steve is here, person of colour sat here, and we're going, yeah, I don't like you because you've got a different colour T-shirt. I'm not picking at that thread, Steve. I'm just going to leave it well alone now. You know what I mean?
Can I just go to? Yeah, can I just go to?
Here's me looking for podcast HR, by the way.
Yeah, get him on. You're going to need him in 10 minutes.
Can I just say, while we've been on, a friend of mine has been WhatsApping me, who's a Blade, and Greg's apparently go on X.
Is he clipping them all? Is he?
I don't know. Well, no, he just sent me a Photoshop from X, and Greg's have actually retweeted a Sheffield United video of them singing Sausage Roll, and it says something along the lines of, "When you get a delivery from Greg's," above it. So Greg's have actually clipped.
I feel like I've been cheated on. Oh God, that's the worst.
Yeah, but they can clip those. Is this an opportunity for you to talk about your champagne invitation, Dan?
Yeah. I've been invited to Phoenix and what was the name of the email? Join us for exclusive champagne pairing experience. That's from Greg's today, and then now they're talking about Sheffield Bloody United. It's good. Well, it's good social media content.
It's Charlie's put on our WhatsApp group, boycott Greg's. So there you go.
That's a big ask. Having said all that all this rivalry is nonsense, I can't go to Greg's anymore. Listen, I've just realised just what time it is. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I don't feel like we've got too much to worry about on the back of the derby. I feel like we're probably still we're not in any relegation battle. It's all right, and as Gaz would say, have a Chinese. I want to say thanks a lot to John, Simon, and Stevie for joining us. That's about it, innit? See you later.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week, bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter. Yeah. Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there, podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday Week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast.